So what do you think is the sweet spot for guys to aim for?
Firstly, whether or not those guys coming to you are at 9 inches or not.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's
that
open for
varies.
debate.
Um, if they were actually at 9 inches and they had sex, your drive to have like gain more, I would question where that motive is coming from. I don't know. Has that female or male that you were with had someone that was larger and that hurt your ego a little bit, and you want even more because of that? There are so many different reasons, physically, psychologically, that'll be the reason why they actually want more. But yeah, I mean, 9 inches, that's massive. I think the reason I've actually lost my drive to actually get more was because I've gotten to this point. There was a moment of realization when having sex with my partner at the time. Took maybe like three or four moments where in certain positions for the first time I'd actually caused pain. And for me, that was such a different perspective, and I think a good realization just to check my ego. Like, I really think that maybe where my motive was coming from for even more size than where I was at, um, yeah, it was beyond pleasure. Like, there was definitely an element of ego in there, and to have this intimate moment go from like pleasure to
Pain.
not pleasure. Like, it just, yeah, it was such a solid check, and I think there is so much more. Size is important, I will say that. But coming from the guy that sells devices for enlargement purposes, size is not everything. Like, there is so much more than obviously goes into sex. We all know that. It's one of those cliche sayings. Most guys that haven't increased the size, or maybe they're not starting at a point where they're satisfied just yet. It's hard to digest that. It's
Right.
probably hard to listen to. You probably want more. Um, and I'm all for whatever your goal is. But just remember that you could literally feel an inch bigger. Again, something a bit cliche, but you can literally feel an inch bigger by just putting a little more time into foreplay. Like, the amount that goes on with a woman or a man, psychologically, that affects the physical. Like, sure, you can have both. I'm all for having, like, all of it, size, the works.
Right.
But I think a lot of guys really focus too heavily on size, and they just disregard a lot of the other stuff, especially these guys coming in with erectile dysfunction. Maybe they're still suffering with premature ejaculation or something, and they still want more size. Again, I'm all for you having, like, ticking every box, having every goal, fine. Um, but it's my philosophy that if you can't get hard and you want a bigger penis, you're essentially trying to fuel the size like a balloon you can't currently fuel. So why would you want a bigger balloon? Like, you need more fuel.
Yeah.
And to me, like, sexual performance is such an indicator of general health and wellness of a guy. Same for females. Like, if they, I mean, they're kind of like inversed the other way. Like, if they can't get off, or if they can't get erect, yes, they can get erect. Then something else is going on there as well, psychologically, physically. But yeah, guys coming in with erectile dysfunction, that essentially tells me something's going on physically, mentally. Like, you need to take care of that first. Plus, I don't think a lot of guys realize how important it is to tick these boxes off first, which is why I put out a structure, and erection quality, then sexual stamina, then size is in that order of priority, which is going to feed into size. I think a lot of guys can't get around this.
Yeah.
Um, but if there is something going on with erection quality, like, your penis is almost going to have an element of protection, like, straight out the gate. Your body is in uh, almost like fight or flight. So I essentially think that humans have two cardinal rules. Our biology, that's survive and procreate.
Right.
A lot of guys think if we're alive, then we're surviving, but it's essentially a survival bias. Like, we need to get to a stage where we're actually thriving. So we're taking care of every step: nutrition, sleep, movement, and a host of others. And I think that's going to feed into erection quality. That feeds into sexual stamina, and that's actually going to provide the body to get to a point where it's in an optimal state to heal and recover and actually adapt to the stress we're causing for size.
Yeah. So I think a lot of guys are actually missing the fundamentals. Like they jump into the size thinking it is the make or break, because we as guys, I think we're like very analytical and we think in numbers and we think bigger is definitely better. And they forget about, you know, most of the pleasure women get from sex, it's has nothing to do with the physical. It starts with the emotional, with the mental, with foreplay, with everything else. And on top of that, something that I realized is that during my PE journey, I was consuming different kind of drugs, be it nicotine, kratom. I made videos about that, stuff that were affecting my erection. And when you're not able to get hard enough, when your erections are not firm enough, you're not going to be gaining anything. And you can't, even if you were gaining, you have no way of measuring the fact that you're gaining. There's simply, it's like a deflated balloon, not enough air getting into it, and you're trying to see how big it can get. Like it's impossible. The only way probably is just to do like flaccid stretched. But still, I mean, if you can't use this length, what's the point? So a lot of guys are not like targeting the fundamentals, I believe. But yeah,